Alright, in this video we're checking out the Foxeer Toothless Micro FPV Cam. This is, as you can see here on the back, it says full weather cam, and that's because it's, I guess they marketing this as basically a camera that'll work in all kinds of lighting conditions, whether it's sunny or cloudy, bright or low light, as in early evening or maybe even in the night. And this is a micro-sized camera, 19 millimeters mounting pattern here. It's got a 1.7 millimeter lens. It's an M12 lens. It does have a voltage sensor line here on the back, so they have their own connector that's included with this, and I don't really ever use the voltage sensor line, but it works the same as it does on the other previous Foxeer cameras. If you have that connected, it will show that in the OSD whatever the voltage is if you wired it to your LiPo or VBAT, and if not, then it will just show you the voltage on the VCC line over here on the left. And in my case here, in my setup, it's going to be 5 volts. You'll see that in a little bit. Now, if you look at all the specs on this camera, it's very suspiciously close to all the specs on the Caddx Ratel. So this is my favorite camera. It does come in 2 lens versions. This is the 2.1 millimeter lens on here. It does come in a 1.66 millimeter lens version. So that other version is probably closer to the field of view on this one here. That has the 1.7 millimeter lens. They both have a 1200 TV line sensor. The sensor size is pretty close, but not exactly the same. The Ratel has a 1/1.8 inch sensor, and the Foxeer Toothless has a 1/2 inch sensor. So if you can tell which one's bigger, it would be the Ratel that's slightly bigger. And if you're wondering why 1/1.8 is bigger than 1/2, yeah, you let me know in the comments below as to why you think that is not the case. I'm really interested to see what you guys have to say about that. So the rest of the specs are also very, very similar. They both are NTSC and PAL switchable, 4.3 and 16.9 switchable, and they also behave the same way when you switch resolutions. I'll show you that here in a little bit. And of course they both have a CMOS sensor. As I mentioned before, the sensor size is pretty similar. They're both CMOS sensors and about the same resolution as far as I can tell. And in fact, I think the image quality, the image color reproduction, all that, really, really close. So, and the reason I say that is I did a video of the baby Ratel, which is the nano version of the Ratel, a couple of days ago, and you saw that video footage which I flew on it. It was a day where just after it rained, and I flew the Toothless pretty much like about 10 minutes later on the same rig. I just swapped the cameras and flew it again. And if you compare the baby Ratel footage to the Toothless footage that you'll see at the end, yeah, go to the other video and bring up that in another browser and then run it side by side to this one, and you'll see it looks really, really similar. So I'm kind of wondering if they've maybe sourced that sensor from the same place that Caddx got their sensor from, or maybe a similar vendor, because the image quality, the way the image looks is really, really similar between the two. And also for you guys that are concerned about latency, I felt like the latency was about the same as on the Ratel. I'll put it up here on the screen as to what their specs say. It's not, I can't tell the difference between this and any other FPV camera that's under, say, about 30 milliseconds of latency. If you guys are looking at differences between 10 to 25 milliseconds of latency, yeah, you guys are better than me. I can't tell the difference. The latency differences are pretty minute. I can totally fly totally fine. Proximity, no problem at high speed as well. Alright, so here is the weight of the Toothless, 8.4 grams, and then the Ratel is coming in at about 8.6 grams. Okay, so here's a quick look at the camera settings. Right now it is reset to factory defaults, and that's how I flew it. I fly all my FPV camera reviews on factory defaults. The image quality on this one is pretty good. I think that you probably want to reduce sharpness a little bit. The contrast seemed okay to me, although some people will probably like maybe want a little bit more. Some people maybe want a little bit less, but I thought it was okay on the default settings. And as you can see on the default settings, you do get this OSD on the bottom with your pilot name the voltage, and then if you use the voltage sensor line, you get that reading over here, and then your power on time over here on the right. And if you want to get rid of that, you bring up the menu, so you just use the controller board here, press the center button here, and you're going to go down to, I think it's special setting here, and here you can change the video scale, the name, voltage timer, image style. Now, for whatever reason, they have image style set to sunset. You can't seem to change this to anything else. I'm not sure if that's a bug or if that's just by design, but yeah, I thought that was odd that was in there. I'm thinking that they're using this firmware from another camera and adapting it to this sensor, and maybe the sensor isn't able to utilize the image style setting, so it may have been disabled. Anyway, to get rid of the name, you just go from open to close, and voltage, open to close, and timer, open to close, and then you just go return, hit save and exit, and I can see that the bottom OSD elements are gone. And let's go through some of these other elements here. You got your automatic exposure, white balance, day-night setting. I left this all stock, so you have EXT, auto, color, black and white, and EXT. Those are the ones that are available to you. Image enhanced, so everything left as auto. Now you may want to go into your sharpness settings and adjust that down or up. So that's basically your preference. I thought auto was okay. It was a little bit on the sharp side, so you might want to reduce that if you feel like it's a little bit too sharp for you. Color gain and digital noise reduction are all left on auto. And here under video settings, you can change your video standard from MTSC to PAL. And that if you just basically switch it over, and then we'll reboot the camera if you do that. So be aware of that. I always leave wide dynamic range on. This camera has a really good dynamic range, just like the Ratel, and you definitely want to be using that. And then under settings here, so here I'm going to show you what it looks like under 4.3. So 4.3 uses the full sensor, which is a 4x3 sensor. And let me just line up this here, so you can see with the camera pointing up, I'd say off the table about 30 degrees, get a really wide field of view on this 1.7. It's a little bit fisheye here in the, you can see on the window there in the upper right, and then you see the door there on the upper left. But you can see here how it looks vertically. So the horizontal field of view, the horizontal field of view won't change when you switch from 4.3 to 69, but this one will crop down. When you crop down to 69, it'll crop down the image. So the top and the bottom gets chopped off. So let me go and show you that. So you lose vertical field of view when you go into 16:9 mode. So yeah, it just reboots the camera. And let me go and show you again what it looks like. It's still not bad. I mean, given the fact that it is chopping off the top and the bottom. But yeah, the left and the right is the same. This is the top and the bottom is reduced a little bit. So again, as I mentioned before, the image quality is pretty similar to the Ratel in terms of specs, also very similar. The one thing that I did notice was different and odd was that the low light or the lux rating on the Toothless is 0.001 lux versus the Ratel is 0.0001 lux. So I mean, it's an extra zero, but that's a pretty significant difference. So, it basically means from a specs perspective, the low light isn't as good as the Ratel, but I thought it was fine. I mean, obviously, if you're in extremely dark conditions, the Ratel and this camera, they both don't perform that great. So, yeah, it's, I think there's kind of a limit. I think the upper limit of the low light capabilities of this camera versus the Ratel is a little bit less, but it's not super noticeable. So anyway, I'll show you a little bit of footage in low light with some street lights and stuff. It's kind of hard to really, it's really hard to portray what it looks like when you're flying through the goggles. So yeah, it's the way it's recorded and everything like that. It doesn't exactly replicate the experience, but I can tell you that it is flyable in pretty low light conditions. Anyway, so that's going to do it for this video. If you have any special requests on additional footage you'd like to see from this camera or some other cameras, then I can add them as unlisted videos and link them in the description. So if that's the case, I could do that if there's enough interest or something that might interest me and I could actually put that together really quick, then I'll try and make that happen for you. Anyway, let me know what you guys think of this camera in the comments section below, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.